So, let's. There's been some interesting news in Bitcoin in the crypto space today,
Oh yeah.
and it's worth providing a bit of context for that. To start, the conversation centers somewhat largely around Elon Musk. So, throughout 2020, Bitcoin made a pretty steady rise in the face of cash printing by the U.S. government and other governments around the world. Uh, MicroStrategy and some other smaller companies have started adopting Bitcoin as part of their treasury reserves to protect their companies from being devalued or their treasuries from being devalued. And Tesla and Elon Musk followed suit. Um, and Tesla itself is pretty important, like in the investment space. A lot of people invest in it. A lot of people have made money on it, and a lot of people thus have attributed a positive following to its CEO, Elon Musk. And Elon Musk is a pretty eccentric guy, as everyone probably already knows. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't know about Elon Musk. And they adopted Bitcoin for Tesla's treasury. So they bought about $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, and they held it for some time. They sold a little bit of it to quote test market liquidity, and then they started it and then quickly stopped accepting Bitcoin for transactions to purchase Teslas. And since then, the Tesla and Elon Musk's attitudes towards Bitcoin have been somewhat downhill. Elon Musk has cited energy consumption concerns, claiming that Bitcoin inefficiently uses large amounts of energy for transactions. He claims that transaction speeds are slow and inefficient. And he basically brought on a lot of criticisms to Bitcoin, many of which are unfounded and have been kind of resolved many years ago within the crypto community. But Elon Musk, is busy building cars and rockets and digging holes, so he doesn't have time to, necessarily be on crypto Twitter all these years and get everything understanding. So some people have tried to explain to him how he's wrong about cryptocurrency and why he should stop talking about stuff like Dogecoin, and how that's just kind of problematic. And so that took an exciting turn today because Twitter's CEO Jack Dorsey, who is a very loud and helpful supporter of Bitcoin, in terms of helping Bitcoin adoption worldwide, Bitcoin development worldwide, funding developers worldwide, and creating really useful products and services built around Bitcoin adoption. And he is on Twitter now challenging Elon Musk, saying like, "Hey, come here, like let's chat about Bitcoin. Like you need to learn about it better. I'm gonna teach you about it."
I was actually not aware of Jack Dorsey creating cryptocurrency products. Which projects has he been a part of?
So Jack Dorsey runs Square, and Square has the Cash App, which is like a Bitcoin, like their cryptocurrency section is Bitcoin focused. And the way that they structured their Bitcoin buying and selling service is great because you can basically buy any amount of Bitcoin and then you can like even small amounts and you can store it on the app. But if you want to withdraw into a hardware wallet, there's essentially no issue for you withdrawing this. And also you can accept Bitcoin payments through the app. So it kind of makes it like a Bitcoin wallet in a sense, which is really great because unlike PayPal, you can buy Bitcoin through PayPal, but you don't actually own the Bitcoin. Like you can't withdraw the Bitcoin. You just get like a dollar value matching and like your like ownership quote of Bitcoin, and then that moves up and down. But you don't actually own the Bitcoin.
Okay.
And he's also donated, I believe it was like 500 Bitcoin to female developers, software developers in India and Africa, really trying to stimulate female software developer or software development, which is terrific. And yeah, like a lot of he does devote a large amount of time to Bitcoin relative to his other companies.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty interesting. He's a good guy in the space.
Mm-hmm. So he has challenged Elon Musk now?
Yeah, like let me see if I could pull up the tweet thread because Elon Musk likes to troll. He likes to have fun poking at people. So Jack Dorsey released a website called The B Word talking about Bitcoin, and then Elon Musk replied, "Buy curious." Jack replies, bizarre. Let's you and I have a conversation at the event, the B word event. You can share all your curiosities. Elon Musk replies, LMFAO, OMG. Classic response from from the richest guy in the world. And then Jack says, let's have all caps the talk. So maybe Jack has a very good understanding of what Bitcoin aims to do and the positive human rights applications it has for just giving superior property rights to everybody. I think it'd be very interesting to see him kind of humble Elon Musk with his wisdom on the topic, and hopefully Elon Musk could kind of stop acting like a bit of an egomaniac, because he doesn't really seem to care for the greater mission of what uh, Bitcoin aims to achieve. But especially before his like massive success in stardom, he would be like very upset if people didn't share his same passion or larger motives for electric cars or for making the human race a multiplanetary species. So it seems like he is capable of understanding these larger than himself impacts on humanity, but he just isn't understanding that Bitcoin is larger than himself and it will have larger than Elon Musk impact on humanity. So
yeah, it seems the cryptocurrencies he's more drawn to are the ones who don't claim to have a large impact. It's really just the hype machine around them, like Dogecoin.
Yeah, and I think he likes the positive attention. Like he's tweeted about multiple different cryptocurrencies in the past, but I think Dogecoin, given its meme culture and its it has a very simple sort of rhetoric that follows it, and Elon Musk echoes this rhetoric. Dogecoin to the moon, and all the Dogecoin bag holders pile on. You get some TikTok influencers in the mix, and everything starts to go really viral. Next thing you know, it's pumping, and everyone starts to thank him. But when the coin falls 70%, the joke's a lot less funny. So yeah, and he also like was saying a lot of things that were like directly misleading. Like he said, he was working with Dogecoin developers to 100x transaction speed at 100x. 100x reduce network energy consumption. And like all three of those points are just absolute like baloney. Like there are no Dogecoin devs. You like 100xing transaction speeds isn't actually like good for a base settlement layer. He doesn't understand the difference between a settlement layer and a transaction layer. And he claimed that he does because he built PayPal, but PayPal is also like an extremely restrictive payment processor that doesn't actually like really support people that much. Like they take huge chunks of fees, and a lot of merchants really struggle to use PayPal, but unfortunately have just no better option in brackets yet.
Yeah, even in our other endeavor, Land We Love, when we had to pay out some scholarship payments, we tried to use PayPal to do it, and we really struggled. It is very restrictive.
Yeah, and if we were like to potentially use like Bitcoin or Strike, we would have essentially no issues.
For sure,
sending that across pretty much instantly. Like also just today, the president of El Salvador was discussing how the citizens can use Bitcoin for direct payments to one another with no middleman, no government or like business middlemen, just directly to one another. So that's.
Is that in addition to the announcement that they made last week about it becoming legal tender?
Yes, yeah, they're moving quite rapidly towards its adoption because, like, they basically like ran the numbers and saw that okay, well, we'll actually just like save money on fees this way, and our citizens will have like a proper savings vehicle. And all the citizens are down for this because if the president goes crazy and wants to try and take everyone's money, he can't. And that's kind of like the first time that that's really happened. So like it's really exciting to see how things are going to go. And if Bitcoin does have like let's say a 10x over the next 12 months, which I think are still very possible, then I mean the citizens of these countries or whoever adopts it are going to be pretty well off relative to where they were when they first adopted it. And I think that type of domino effect will only continue. Like people will start seeing the positive wealth effect and want to abandon the dollar regime and move away from it. There was actually So Alec Gladstein, he works with the Human Rights Foundation, and he wrote this interesting article about how there's about 60 nations in Africa that are still controlled by France through France's monetary rules. So while France doesn't like control their government, they still control their currency, and they don't use
How
the
does
same.
that work?
So I haven't read the full article. I just scanned the tweet thread because I thought this was really interesting news, and this is new to me. So France uses the franc, but they had a different currency called the CFA franc that they would use for like the Central African nations that they colonized. But after the 60s, you couldn't really like own them anymore. So they had to, like, I guess, retreat with their tail between their legs. But they still wanted some sort of control over these people, I guess, so they could extract value from them. So they had to they had to all these citizens had to use the CFA version of the franc, which relative to the normal franc depreciated like 19,000% over 30 years.
Oh,
And they had to constantly hold French francs in the reserves as part of the law. So it basically means like you have to buy our money with your crappy money to make our money more valuable. So it's kind of, and they, yeah. So it's on the international scale. It's pretty sketchy and pretty bad. And and we talked about El Salvador before. The biggest point was that these dollarized countries, or more specifically, countries that have surrendered their monetary sovereignty, meaning that they are not in control of their ability to control interest rates or the supply of money, they're the most likely candidates to want to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender very quickly because like it's better for them to use a money that no one controls versus one party controls, and that grossly benefits the controlling party, being the United States, or in the discussion in the example I mentioned just before, France, right? So this is like quite problematic for a lot of these countries, and it is hopeful that they'll be able to gain some sort of strength or gain some sort of like independence out of this that allows them to achieve greater prosperity.
that is very interesting. I'll look that up later. I know now France doesn't use the franc anymore. They're onto the euro, but I'm sure there's still some level of control there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely worth researching into that some more.
We do have an announcement we want to make, but before that, I just want to back up a little bit and finish our discussion about Elon Musk, because
Sure.
I really want to get into the things that he says that are actually misleading, because there's a lot. Could you go into a bit more on those? Like, for example, the energy consumption, how much energy Bitcoin consumes. In what way is that misleading?
There's two different ways to look at it. There is how much energy, maybe even more than two, but there is the energy mix. So the energy it consumes, what portion of that is renewable energy versus fossil fuels, and then what is the energy actually being used for? So first off, the energy is being used for the distribution of newly minted coins, because the only truly fair way to distribute coins of new currency is to allow anyone to gain access to it. Kind of like anyone can mine gold, right? But not everyone can print dollars. Only like a few people can print dollars. So the gold type model is more attractive for a fair distribution. Although unlike gold, Bitcoin doesn't need a third party for processing or for refinery. So it's very it's very independent in that sense. Like you don't need any third party to even verify that it's legit. And so consuming energy for this reason is the fairest way to distribute it. But then when we talk about, it's like, oh, it uses a lot of energy, like as much as some small nations. Well, I mean that's true, but it's like I don't recall the exact figures, but let's say it's like we produce 220 terawatt hours of electricity every year, right? But so much of that is inaccessible due to it's in a far location. We can't access it. We have to waste a lot of energy to extract more through like a fuel pumping process. And this basically results in almost a third of the world's energy that's produced not being consumed. It's produced and then wasted, or it's extracted and then wasted. And what most Bitcoin energy consumption does is it finds this waste and energy and then it puts it to a use. Many people are probably familiar with large amounts of Bitcoin mining being done in China. Why is there lots of Bitcoin mining in China? Well, it's not because it's sunnier there. It's because the Chinese government took on a lot of debt and built out their public infrastructure, meaning that they have a lot of bridges leading to nowhere and hydro dams supplying electricity for ghost towns that haven't been filled with people yet. And so a lot of Bitcoin miners went to these hydro dams and started using that electricity for Bitcoin mining because it's like free electricity that's not essentially not being consumed. And now there's been a crackdown on this. The Chinese government doesn't want their grid being consumed by Bitcoin. They want it to be more for the citizens. So that's why we've had the mining ban going through.
Yeah, the ban.
But like what we were just talking about there was a lot of hydro energy. Some of the fossil fuel energy is it takes place in like the American South in Texas, and a lot of natural gas flaring is a natural process of natural gas extraction where you have like the top of the well constantly burning off natural gas. Like if you ever seen like a natural gas well, like you'll see like a flame at the top of it that's always lit, and almost like a candle, and like you're like, whoa, why is that there? It's part of the pumping process. And then Bitcoin mining rigs have said, hey, you're wasting that energy. Do you want us to like do something for you to get rid of that? And the companies are saying, sure, we'll actually pay you to do this because we have to pay carbon fines for all the released carbon we release. So yeah, we'll pay you a little bit to take our energy from us that we're wasting. And then they'll do that. And then the moment they're done pumping there, the Bitcoin mining farm can pack up into a truck and then drive off to the next one and keep doing that and stop wasting energy from being stop energy from being wasted. So that's one aspect. But then if you're talking about transactions, well, Bitcoin doesn't really consume like I said before. Most of the energy that Bitcoin consumes is for issuing and distributing newly minted coins. So if we're talking about transaction fees and related to energy, it's almost impossible to measure, especially if you use like the Lightning Network, which is a side channel. Then you can potentially like per an in and an out transaction, which is establishing and then closing the side channel, where you can conduct essentially an unlimited amount of transactions in that channel. You can basically have a single Lightning transaction be like the smallest amount of measurable energy possible. So like if we're talking about a per transaction measurement, all those other claims that we've seen in the past have just been almost fraudulent with their information presentation, because they would make claims like, oh, at this rate, Bitcoin's going to consume all the world's energy by 2020, right? And like it's past. We're way beyond that. Like it's like Bitcoin mining has increased. It's not that it hasn't. It just continues to consume energy efficiently, and all those models that people use to try and calculate its energy growth are just extremely flawed and incorrect. So that's unfortunately the kinds of models that Elon Musk has been referencing. And it's not even like Teslas use energy from power plants too. Like this just seems like their company got some sort of pressure from regulators saying, well, the regulators think that the money is dirty or consumes a lot of energy, so you can't use it to buy Teslas because you're getting all these government grants saying that you're an energy good company, so you get all these energy good grants, right? Like, okay, cool. So there's a large theory also that Elon Musk has just been siding with regulators to try to make sure that he gets all of his tax credits, because like Elon Musk is a good engineer, but he's never built a profitable business. Like he's gotten fired from multiple of his past companies before they could turn a profit. Tesla still doesn't turn a profit. The most profit that Tesla's earned was actually from their Bitcoin purchase and sale. So so that's more profit than Tesla's had in all of its periods or all of its years before that combined. So like Elon Musk really should become Tesla's friend, not Bitcoin's friend, not Bitcoin's enemy. And I think that process will start to slowly happen. And it's like Elon Musk is unfortunately really significant figure, because he changed his profile picture to Bitcoin in like late January, early February, and the price went up and then down a few $1,000s. Then he said, okay, well, our company now holds a lot of Bitcoin. And then the price of Bitcoin shot up like from 36 to 42K or something like that. It's absolutely massive move up.
Massive,
And
yeah.
then when he stopped accepting um, Bitcoin for Teslas, it dropped a lot, like $1,000 again. And his negative comments around Bitcoin have mirrored Bitcoin's like additional steps downwards, right? Like obviously, there's constant volatility in the chart, but Elon Musk tweets something, the price dives a few minutes afterwards. It's been happening a lot. So I think it would be somewhat interesting, and like it seems even healthy for the price of the assets in the space if Elon Musk understood things a little bit better and was presenting more honest information. Because besides being the richest man in the world, he has a lot of like internet clout. Like Jeff Bezos isn't like memes everywhere. Jeff Bezos doesn't tweet and then get famous. Like Elon Musk is one of the most followed people on Twitter, right? Like he's like a celebrity in addition to being a rich person, right? So he's kind of
Yeah.
like Tony Stark in that sense, where he's like a very much a personality in addition to being like a billionaire engineer. And that can't be really said for anyone else. So unfortunately, like we don't. It's hard to kind of say like, oh, well, we're simping for Elon Musk. We want him to be on board. We need him to be on board. But to an effect, his not being on board has severely damaged the space over the last 6 months. So hopefully, getting him back on board in a proper fashion should be good.
There's also the theory that he's doing all of this as a way to almost manipulate the Bitcoin markets, because you did see him buy a lot of Bitcoin and then tweet about it. Price shot up massively.
Yeah.
Then, he sells it. Then he moves on to Dogecoin, where he basically does the same thing. I don't know if we can rule that out either.
So with Doge, this is definitely true, it's definitely factual that he is moving the price a lot. It's hard to say though how he's acting on it because we're not going to have access to his personal books, but on a corporate perspective, he brought the price of Bitcoin down below the point that they purchased it at. So at some point, Tesla's Bitcoin holdings were underwater, and that's largely due to Elon's comments. So at some point, like I mentioned before that they more profit than they've ever earned in all their years of operations. They got into a single Bitcoin trade for holding it just for a short amount of time. However, the same could be true if they end up taking a loss on this Bitcoin purchase, because then they would end up having a large loss they've had in any year. And that would be very much seen also as an unnecessary loss because this isn't stemming from their business operations. This would essentially be a loss stemming from sketchy financial activity. It could be viewed from a shareholder perspective, especially when you combine the fact that Elon Musk essentially manipulated the price the way down. So if the company didn't buy it, then that would almost be seeming problematic from one perspective. But then if they did buy it, it is also problematic from the price manipulation perspective. And if a single person can manipulate the price so much for their own personal benefit versus just for some laughs or for some trolling, that also is really problematic itself. But also would show how early it is too. Like, I don't like. I think I don't. I think we see like the Kim Kardashian effect. Like she said she didn't like Twitter, and then Twitter fell. Or like Ronaldo said he didn't like Coca-Cola, drink water, and then Coca-Cola fell. Like they're able to move companies, right? Stars can move companies, but Bitcoin is going to become so much larger than any company, as it becomes the global money. So it still shows that if we can move it, and if one person can tweet and move the price, we're still pretty early.
Yeah. So to summarize, you are still very much in the belief that Bitcoin is the future.
Yes.
And nothing Elon Musk says right now will change that.
No, I mean, like Bitcoin is still an absolutely unkillable network, and it's continuing to grow, and now it's being adopted by nation states, which is, I think Pomp first presented the analogy of Bitcoin is a game of accumulation, and it's like a game of musical chairs, right? The music has stopped, but most people are too busy dancing that they don't realize that the music has stopped. But some people have already started sitting down, and El Salvador just sat down. More countries are going to start sitting down. And Elon Musk likes the sound of his dancing too much to really know what's going on, I think. So maybe once Jack Dorsey can settle him down and have him listen to the silence, then maybe he can get Elon to take a seat.
Okay, great. Well, I really enjoyed hearing about that. For sure, we've been seeing so much about Elon Musk in the news. It's great to hear someone like you, an expert in the space, break it down. I think now we can go over the announcement that we wanted to share about our company, which we are very excited about.
So the company has been somewhat negatively impacted by COVID and the large kind of halting of business activities. And
yes, it has been the past year.
Yeah.
Not great. And a lot of things have been on pause, especially when it comes to developing the Acre app and that ecosystem.
Yeah, and we've also noticed too that like Canada hasn't been the fastest in terms of achieving like a higher vaccination rate and a return to normal work or a return to normalcy as maybe the United States and some and maybe the UK have. But we're obviously not lagging far back as some of the other nations that are more overcome by COVID. We were kind of in the middle ground. And our middle ground is kind of now allowing us to open up and resume our normal business development practices, really help ramp up the presence for Acre online, for the development of the Acre platform, and really bring us closer towards a launch and this real estate investing platform closer to a reality.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we can share that in the past few weeks, we have been actively purchasing real estate again for the first time since everything went on hiatus before. We have 5 properties now that we are working to renovate, and ones that we'll actually be able to share on the app when it comes online again. We're also in the early stages of relaunching that app, and you can look out for that also as well. But yeah, basically our big announcement is that we are finally reopening Canada, and our company is growing, and we are taking big next moves, and you can expect to hear more and more about them in the weeks to come. We were just very excited to share that with you guys.
Awesome. That's super exciting because as you all may know, growing real estate portfolio is extremely important for the Acre app, and it's a very good sign of everything that's to come.
Mm-hmm. If Shellcoin is the fuel of Acre, then the properties are really I don't know my analogy. The properties are the wood that the fuel will burn to create the success of this business. So really those two things together is what will create success for the future of the company. And on the property side, we do have some great growth that we're seeing. And next week, actually, we'll have our real estate acquisition specialist join us for the live, Rory, and he will discuss some news that are happening on the real estate side. I know with Conrad, we've been talking a lot about the crypto space. So we want to bring more of that real estate side into it next week and talk even more in detail about what the company has been doing, what we're planning, and what we have coming in the future for you guys.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Looking forward to hearing more about that next week.
Yes. Tune in next week at the same time. We'll be doing these live, and we hope to have some news and updates for you guys every week. We'll keep following the same format, discussing some updates in the space that are relevant to the company, and then sharing some news going forward.
Awesome. All right. So everyone, thank you very, very much for joining us. We hope to have you rejoin us next week and the week after that, where we'll continue to have more and more announcements discussing all the developments in Acre and all the exciting things that we're going to be bringing to y'all.
Yeah. And we are very excited. Thank you, guys.
Thank you everyone for coming. See y'all next week.
See you.
Bye.
Have a great weekend, everyone.